Hey Zoomers, welcome back to World Zoom. So happy you could join me again today. Thanks for the last few videos. I think this is day 5 for me doing videos again after a couple month layoff. So I keep getting comments and requests about what you would like to know, just like all YouTubers do, where you write in and say, hey, how about this, that, or the other. Been having some questions about flights, how to actually get mostly from Canada or from the U.S. to the Philippines. And it's been probably 2 or 3 years ago I did a video on flights from the U.S. to Philippines specifically. And so I thought today I'd talk again about how to get a decent flight, or which airline specifically, some specific flights and costs to get from the U.S. Again, it's like everything else when you're doing the travel. If you happen to be in one of the hot spots for travel, that makes it easy for you. And in this case, it's usually the West Coast, like Seattle, San Fran, Los Angeles, and then on the East Coast, when you're coming from New York City, either airport or from Washington, a lot of times the flights are a lot different. That's not necessarily the case when you're going from the mainland U.S. to Philippines, because there's some really good flights that come out of Indy, a lot out of Chicago, and O'Hare specifically, and certainly Dallas-Fort Worth, a lot out of Detroit, Minneapolis. So let's talk about a couple of the airlines, really. I'll talk about the airlines, and then you can sort of get online and check yourself to see if these flights are still available. Sort of the way I did it was just looked at going either to Manila or Cebu from different spots in the U.S. and what airline makes better sense depending on what city that you're leaving from. Some of these flights, you've got to get yourself to their initial point of departure, like say Starlux, for example. They will put you on a plane, let's say from Indy to San Fran, but you could probably find a better deal getting there yourself and then fly on from Taipei to Cebu, for example, just an example. So let's talk about United Airlines first. This is an airline I seldom fly internationally. I do a decent amount domestically, but not a lot internationally. I just don't think they're priced competitively. But I mean, they have a decent price from O'Hare to Manila direct, which is valuable, right? Direct for $807. So basically, you could also go from your city to San Francisco, and then San Francisco direct to Manila. That's another route that you can go with United Airlines. But if you could get to Chicago, right, and over the course of the next 3 months, United is odd. If most people that are going to go to the Philippines are going to stay for, more than 7 days, and that's one of the parameters of this price, is that you have to stay for a week period of time. I doubt that's a problem for anybody that's going to fly, 20 some hours and go to the Philippines. But anyway, that's a pretty good price that I saw direct from Chicago to Manila for $807. So there's United. You can catch any one of their hubs if you leave from Dallas or you leave from right in Chicago or anywhere on the West Coast. It's usually a bit more expensive than the other airlines, but you know what you're getting, right? You know what you're getting with American, with United, with Delta, usually. For good or bad, better or worse, you know what you're getting with our normal flight carriers here in the U.S. So that'll lead me into Delta Airlines. This has normally been my go-to airline domestically or internationally, just because I really like their frequent flyer program. I think at one point I had like 1.6 or 1.7 million miles with Delta. So when I can find a flight on Delta, that's reasonable, right? I mean, if it's several $100s more, I might change. But if it's close, I usually grab the Delta. And it's easy for me because all the hubs are all around me on the Delta side. Once you get to Memphis or Minneapolis or Detroit, You can then fly all the way to, maybe not direct, right? But you can get to the places you need to jump off from. Delta almost always goes through Incheon, or more often than not through Narita in Tokyo. So expect to go however you're going to get from the US on Delta to Narita. Again, if you're in Minneapolis or Detroit, that's direct, right? So you can do Delta flight Indy to Minneapolis or Indy to Detroit, all the way to Narita, and Narita direct into Manila. And most of the others, Delta's so big now, wherever you are in the U.S., a lot of you might be choosing that airlines, at least to get to the West Coast, to take off from there. So there's Delta. Just like the other U.S. airlines, they sometimes can be a tad more expensive, but you can find some decent deals on Delta, especially here recently. If you happen to be flying to Vietnam or to the new airport, Techno Airport in Phnom Penh, or to Bangkok, good flights going on right now on Delta Airlines. So if it's not Manila, which I'm not seeing any price breaks on, in the $800 to $900 range. But if you're going to those others in Southeast Asia, jump on it, because, it's good service. They're on time. They feed you okay. I like it. Philippine Air has a $739 round trip fare to Manila. Pardon, I'll look down a couple times. It's not like my normal videos where I can just spout on for 30 minutes without looking at notes. There, I've got some specific numbers that I want to be able to give you directly. So right now, Philippine Airlines round trip from the U.S. Is from Los Angeles is 660, was one of the best ones that I found, but the range seems to be on what day you're going, from $678 to $834, and that's not bad round trip when we've been seeing normally in the $1,100-$1,200 range. Minneapolis, St. Paul on Philippine Air to Manila, 655. Dallas, 670. New York City won all the way down to 540, which is the cheapest of any airline I found anywhere. But it was only like a Ford. I mean, you're just not going to do that. So, and I couldn't extend that one to get any better price. When I tried to extend it, it went up a lot. So you might have to experiment with New York City to Manila on Philippines Air to see what you can find out, because the normal price from NYC is $1,024. So that's a huge difference from 540. So whether that's a teaser rate that they put online to get you to click on it, and then you can never actually find it when you're trying to book. So that's Philippine Air. Always a safe bet, right? I mean, if we've been over there, you've been on Philippine Air most probably. They do all right. You sort of know what you're getting. You get stuck with going through Manila instead of going directly to Cebu. Anyone who's been through Manila would rather fly to a different airport, unless you're just really a true glutton for punishment. You just rather avoid that at all costs. But, in most cases, there's no way around it. You got to get there and jump off to wherever you're going to be going. Starlux, I've had mixed results personally on Starlux. One time they stranded me in San Francisco. I had to leave the airport because they first postponed the flight, clear up to like 2 a.m. And then they flat canceled it with nobody to help you rebook and no one to help you. Whenever you called the service from there, it was closed in regular business hours. So San Francisco is not exactly cheap. So I had to leave, go find a hotel, stay, come back at 6 o'clock in the morning to try and get rebooked. Because they told us to find out the gates weren't open till 7:30. So, you lose sleep, you spend a lot for a hotel. So I'd still have a bad taste in my mouth with Starlux, and I said so on some of my posts. But there are some good things. When I did actually fly them, it was okay, right? I mean, they're just fine. They're mostly West Coast carrier. So it's best if you're in LA, Seattle, or San Francisco. You're going to go to Taipei. So anyway, if you can get to the West Coast, you get on Starlux, you fly to Taipei, and then it goes direct to Cebu. It doesn't even go to Manila. They don't even have a flight to Manila. Starlux is sort of like that. Instead of LAX, sometimes they do Ontario, for example. So they tried to find airports that didn't have as high a fees. So they do a Midway versus O'Hare, but that's an example. They don't fly out of there. But just saying, they'll fly. Check closely if you're going to do Starlux and make sure you're getting to the airport that you're going to be flying into and you don't have to transfer. But they're okay, for the prices. And if you're looking to go to one of the different islands, the fact that you can avoid Manila is pretty good. So Starlux is always a distinct possibility for us leaving the U.S., going to the Philippines. Cathay Pacific, if you've flown them, they almost invariably go through Hong Kong, which is no problem. The Hong Kong airport's pretty cool. If you happen to get a long layover, it truly is simple to be able to depart and go and explore around Lantau Island. Disneyland is there on the island. They have these cable cars that take you up. You see the mist above you, you go through the mist and you go above the mist to these Buddhist temples there, all within, 5 minutes of the airport. I wouldn't, unless you really have a long layover, I wouldn't recommend going all the way in to Hong Kong, which is, 25 miles or so, because they built that airport clear out on an island that, really they had to fill it in to make the airport. But so I guess the point is a layover in Hong Kong is not a bad thing. I think you'd find it pretty entertaining. Cathay Pacific is just absolutely hit and miss. Sometimes you'll load them up and it'll say 780, and sometimes you'll load them up and it'll say 2,047. You have no idea what to expect when you get specifically on that web page. Here's another point that I want to make. Just as I brought that up, it made me think of something. Don't think just through some of the other search engines you're going to find, Booking and Travelocity. Sometimes these flights, a Starlux, a Cathay, an Eva Air, All Nippon Airlines, or JAL Airlines, Japanese Airlines, they may not even be on these sites. So, if you have some extra time, load up those ones individually. I know that's sort of a pain when we're used to just having 5 different airlines right at our fingertips. But for ease of travel and also just for a discounted rate, it's probably worth it to load in Cathay Pacific or load in Eva Air specifically, just because sometimes the costs are so much cheaper, and it's really good service. It really is, especially Cathay is pretty darn good service. So again, you'll go through Hong Kong with them. Eva Air is going to take you through Taipei. It is a very unique airline in that they'll have set prices. You'll have a West Coast price, a middle of America price, and they really do that the same way. You're going to have a completely different price from Vancouver or Calgary than you are from an Ottawa or Montreal, right? If you're flying going that direction, and so, for example, the West Coast was about $700. The East Coast was around $750 to Manila, and the middle America was around $800, going all the way up to well over $1,000. All these went up to $1,000, depending if you're trying to leave on a Friday. You know all the rules, right? Stay this amount of time. If you leave on the Friday, Saturday, it's usually going to be more, et cetera, et cetera. You probably know all those. But that's an airline, also Taipei based. So just like Starlux, same family owns both. They'll get you there. And Taipei is not a bad airport to spend some time in. I had like a 6-hour layover the last time when I was coming back. And, I found plenty of entertaining things to be able to do in that airport. It's not small like you might think at all. And lastly, I'll just lump these two, All Nippon Airlines, ANA, and Japanese Airlines, JAL. That's worth taking a look at. You'd be surprised where they fly from or who they're partnered with, right? Both ANA and Japanese Airlines are in the Delta system as partners. So a lot of times, you can look at Delta and you may get a Japanese airline flight, or vice versa. You look at Japanese airline and they may take you from like Indy to San Francisco on Delta, and then you don't have to go back to the desk or anything, and your luggage just gets on the plane. You don't have to do anything, but your next flight's going to be Japanese airline to Nagoya or to Tokyo, and then on to Manila from there. And, sometimes the prices are decent, right? I mean, sometimes they really are. So I hope that's helpful. That's a whole list, probably more information than you may have wanted or you can use. But rest assured, the prices aren't bad going there now compared to what they've been for the last couple of years. So you can get there from just about anywhere in America or from Canada. So best of luck. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you guys tomorrow from World Zoom. Take care.